And that was hugely appealing, of course, to artists who were beginning, like us, to understand interaction, that one reaches out to the work, one goes through the frame of the picture, as it were, and is involved in the construction of the space, actually, physically, of course, with digital transformative systems. So Heisenberg and Wheeler were very important there. This is my attempt in the 60s to try to work the blackboard in the way all these wonderful, great figures did, but looking at these issues of programming and chance, bringing these things together, the question of coding and the genetic code and so on and so forth. So this was the kind of debate that we were involved in at that time. My resolution pre-computer was very quaint and so forth, but very important to me at the time, which was to try to find the way in which the painting could be dependent on the viewer, that it was not resolved until you reached in and moved the parts about, just as now you reach into cyberspace and move the parts about. So and I tried to rationalize this. I don't suppose you can even read this, there isn't really time, but just to say that the function of the exhibition catalog, of course, can be instructional, it can be a workbook as well as anything else, and so on. I must move on. The importance of the tabletop to me of interaction has been hugely important, as of course, we replace the screen with the tabletop in many instances now. This was just as again a sort of manifesto of the 60s, always insisting art as a form of behavior, software predominates over hardware in the creative sphere, process replaces product, and so on and so forth. So then I came to get into this educational thing. I came to Canada as the president of the Ontario College of Art, rather young at the time, sort of 35 years old and full of the future and stepping on lots of toes, but actually reconstructing the whole thing, closing down all the departments, removing all those funny old ideas of fine art, fashion, industrial design, which was actually styling, nothing to do with design really at all, pink refrigerators and frivolous things like that. And trying to think about, well, what are the essential elements in an educational structure? First of all, they will deal with structure, they will deal with information, and they will deal with concepts. So each of those poles, as it were, would be approached from the point of view of analysis, theory, speculation, and social application with a cultural probe at the middle. And given that sort of configuration, I went to the faculty and said, okay, guys, what interests you here? These are these elements we're talking about within the frame of information, of structure, of concept, from the point of view of social application. What do we generate out of that? So the courses were generated out of individuals responding to that model. And this produced this sort of map, which was sent out to third and fourth year students who were invited to tick at the periphery those issues, those topics. Unfortunately, you can't read them very clearly, but that interested them. And then, of course, it was a simple matter of putting together the people who were competent to deal with this and the students who wanted to look at this. And it led to the most magnificent chaos, I'm afraid, because the computer hadn't actually been brought into the institution at that stage in 1971. It did lead to a great deal of creative activity, but it also led to my forced resignation rather early on. However, I had many discussions in the 70s in London with Will Alsop, an architect, in which the tabletop was really, really important to both of us in various ways, the space of interaction. And it's a kind of irony which I must hit upon because architecture is an important matter to me in all these discussions. This is the Ontario College of Art. That red brick building back in the background there was the very college where that structure that I've just described to you was set up in the early 70s. And Will was hired to design the extension of it. And all the people living on the right of this picture, looking out across a green, which you can't see, were most disturbed that the school would just extend. So he said, fine, we'll put it in the air. So this is his resolution. This is the Ontario College of Art today, which I think is a fairly dramatic structure. Another one that I was involved in, I was the dean of the San Francisco Art Institute. This led really to the Planetary Collegium because it was a kind of mindless activity that went on there. It was like post-1960s modernism from New York, wrought in sort of Californian sunshine. Lots of people flashing paint around and stuff like that.